Hi, can we? It looks as though we are now streaming, everybody. So we're in your hands.
Not showing yet.
Says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook on my screen.
I have it on Facebook.
There's a little delay. Can anyone see it?
No.
You can see it, can you, Ed? Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So it's live for me.
Good.
Right. Shall I start us off? So this is the meeting of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council Finance Committee on the 11th of August. Delia,
yes, we don't have our regular chair, Councillor Ely. I wonder if any of the members would like to nominate a chair, please.
I'll propose Councillor Hume.
I'll second that.
Okay. Everybody happy with that?
In favour.
You're in charge, Councillor Hume.
Great, fantastic. So we're having this meeting on Zoom and it has been streamed live on Facebook. So as we're a small committee, I just think it will be useful that those who are watching on Facebook know who we are. So I'll just start with myself. I'm Councillor Ed Hume. I represent the Eton North Ward, covering part of the Lakes Estate. So we'll go to Delia, who's our clerk. Yeah.
Sorry, I've just muted myself.
That's okay. And we've got Councillor Gary Kenworthy, if you just want to wave.
Hello from South Lakes representation.
Fantastic. And we've got Councillor Michael McDonald.
Yeah, also Lakes Estate, Eton South.
And we've also got Councillor Ron Hayne.
The Central Bletchley and Stadium area.
Fantastic. So the first item of the agenda is to note members' apologies for absence. Clark, you're on mute.
Going well, is it? We've got apologies for absence from Councillors Ely, Kennedy and O'Rourke and Kelly Wilson.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, which is to note members' declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Do any members have any interest on this agenda?
No, Chair.
Fantastic. Moving on to item number 3, to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting. So this will be on the agenda, your packs. So I'll just go through the pages as we do usually. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. And the final page, page 4. Fantastic. So can I take that we agree that those minutes are an accurate record of the last meeting?
Yes, I'm happy.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I'll arrange for a copy to be sent to you, Councillor Hume, for you to sign.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, which is public speaking time. Have you had any requests for public speaking?
No, we haven't. We haven't had any for this meeting at all.
Okay, that's okay. This meeting, just again, is being streamed to the Facebook, and members of the public may well make comments on there on the Facebook page. We won't be able to necessarily respond to them in this meeting, but I'm sure if there are any questions that arise from that this will be resolved. We will go back to them.
They will, and I think our media projects and media officer will be watching the stream. If she's able to respond, she will respond whilst the meeting's going on.
That's great. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 5, which is to review planning applications for Bletchley and Fenny Town Council area and agree any comments for Milton Keynes Council. So the first, number 1, is for 59 Aylesbury Street. This is for listed building consent for the erection of 4 flats in vacant land to the rear.
Oh, Councillor Kelly Wilson is just joining us.
Okay.
Must have been able to join after all.
No, well, that's good before we get Newton Leys on the agenda.
Good evening, Ethan. Good to see you.
Sorry, Chairman, I struggled with the number. I think it had changed from the normal one. So sorry, my apologies.
Okay. So we're on item 5, which is the planning applications, and we're looking at item 1, which is for 59 Aylesbury Street, consent of 4 flats to the rear of 59 Aylesbury Street. It's a listed building consent. Are there any? Do we have any comments? I will take that as okay. Councillor Kenworthy.
I'm rather concerned that in the whole of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, we seem to be getting flats, when, you know, in terms of like social distances and how many people we've got, you know, in like per square foot. In this particular case, even though it's a listed building, you know, the building needs to be reused. But it's when we start getting the 30 and 40 flats and just flats, and too many of them, and they haven't been very well designed, some of them have been very good designs. But I think at some stage, we're going to have to say, why is it always flats? That's my main point. Yeah.
There is a second item to this, which is about the planning application. Would it be better to say that under that item rather than the list of building consent? There's 2 specific items there.
I haven't got a problem of the reuse. Chair, I'll take your advice. We move it on to the next.
Yeah, no comments on the list of building consent. Then we
not
won't
listed, no.
Now onto the planning application for 59 Aylesbury Street, erection of 4 flats on vacant land at the rear. Do we wish to make any comments?
No.
It's really just a general one. We seem to be getting far too many flats as the preferred. I mean, people will make more profit on it, yes, but we are having a very heavy density. And what my concern is about infrastructure, about the sewage, the water, the number of children who might end in these flats, and the lack of play areas and facilities we've got in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, where quite a lot of them have been damaged and not been the upkeep. So I'm worried about our population density without the necessary supporting infrastructure. That's the generalized comment.
Gary, we just need to be aware that our comments need to be of material consideration. Is that a material consideration according to the plan and framework? Clark,
no, it doesn't actually come under that.
No, I think the comment. Sorry, you finish your comments, councillor.
Well, essentially, we do need to be aware about our population density, and we do need the S106 monies. We do need provision for the people.
So I very much hear what you're saying. I think with these individual applications, you can really only comment the application that you've got in front of you. I think the points that you're making need to be made at a more in response to planning policy documents. There is, in particular, there's a draft planning obligations, a new draft planning obligations SPD coming to full council on the next occasion. I think there are other opportunities to make the very valid points that are being made.
I accept your point.
I'm not sure this is the right place.
That is a correct point, Town Clerk, the way it is, because this is specific. My point is generic, but we shouldn't lose sight of it, as I'm just emphasising that to the rest of the councillors and staff present on these meetings. We should not lose sight of it, but I do not have an objection for this going ahead.
Okay. Do we have any other comments on this item? I will take that as a no. So we'll move on. Thank you for your comments, Councillor Kenworthy. Part 3 is for the change of use from Class A1 retail to Class A5 hot food takeaway at Unit 3, 9 Isla Court, Newton Lees. Do we have any comments on that we wish to make or not? Okay, I will take that as no comment. Number 6 is item number 6 is to note recent planning decisions made by Milton Keynes Council. Have we all seen that item on the agenda in the papers?
Yes.
We'll just note that. Item number 7, to review a financial management information report showing income and expenditure against budget for the year to the 31st of July 2020, which should be in your pack. Are there any comments that councillors wish to make on this,
No.
or questions?
Got nothing.
I'm happy we've got all the procedures in place and being managed well.
Okay. My only comment, and I just want to bring it, I think we know the reasons for this, but I just want to bring it to, and we'll probably discuss it later as we look at Newton Lees. It's just to note the large drop in income at Newton Lees Pavilion. I just think as a committee we need to be aware of that. We know the reasons why, but I just think it's just worth saying that.
Yeah, it was raised at the previous meeting, you know, as well.
That's okay. Okay. There's no other comments on that. We will move on to item number 8.
Could I ask you to note the report, please, Chairman?
Yes, sorry about that. Do we all note that report on the income and expenditure? Great.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is to note the council's cash and investment reconciliations to the 31st of July 2020. Do we all note that?
Noted.
Noted.
That's
Noted.
Noted.
Item number 9 is to note the balance sheet as of the 31st of July 2020.
Noted.
Noted.
Yeah.
Right. And number 10, item number 10 is to ratify a list of payments made in July or due to be made in August 2020.
Noted.
Noted. Are we happy to ratify that list?
Propose we
Yeah.
approve.
Right, no objections. Fantastic. Item number 11 is to consider the future of Bletchley Market, including consideration of the motion below. Clark, I don't know whether you've got any any verbal or information.
I've got a small document to just share with you to show you a bit of history about what's happened with the market revenue, which I think if you can just bear with me, I'll just share.
Is this the one you emailed out earlier?
I think I did, yes. Can you see that on your screens?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That just shows you the historical trend with the market. Obviously, things really took a downturn in 1920. And then if I can just explain the income in 2021, the £231 income that was banked in April was actually collected at the end of March, but because of COVID wasn't banked until April. So that effectively there was no revenue in April, May or June because the market wasn't running. And in July, the revenue is 669. But I don't think, regardless of leaving aside any decisions you may make about a discount, I'm not confident that we will achieve 669 during August. Before lockdown started, we had 10 regular traders who were trading on 4 days of the week: Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Most of them only traded 1 or maybe 2 days, and Saturday was the weakest day in terms of numbers attending. Post-COVID, since the market has reopened, we started with 6 of our regulars who wanted to return when the market reopened. We've since lost one of those, which I know that you're all aware of. That's a market trader who's chosen to relocate elsewhere in the centre of Bletchley because they weren't happy with the new location and the fact that we weren't able to allow them to have their vehicle next to their stall. in line with the arrangements that we've agreed with Milton Keynes Council, and I don't foresee us being able to tempt that particular trader back at the moment, though I don't give up hope. So that leaves us with 5 other traders. 2 of them I'm confident will continue in the present location, and then there are two others who I'm more concerned about. Some of the traders like the new location, but some of them are unhappy with it for various reasons, chief of which is that they feel that it was much busier at the Stanier Square end of Queensway, and that their trade is diminishing as a consequence of being at the other end of Queensway. And they've expressed their views quite forcefully, and I think all members have been aware of what's been said. It's been forwarded around the council. But at the moment, we have nobody who's regularly trading on a Tuesday. As you know, we're not operating on a Saturday because we don't have a member of staff present on Saturdays, and we have three regular traders on Thursday and 2 regular traders on Friday, and that's the current position. So it's just 5 at the moment. We have had some more interest, and we're progressing several other potential traders who may wish to come. So that's the background that I can give. Happy to answer any questions, obviously.
Thank you very much, Delia. Does anyone have any questions on Delia's report or comments to make? Councillor Kenworthy.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's very good information from the town clerk. We all know it's very accurate. But as I raised in about 4 meetings ago, we have a situation that in previous recessions and downturns, some of the markets really came back strong in various towns around the country, including some of the places that I've lived at. And so, you know, if we're going to have, say, things like a Christmas market, and we can actually try and get the economy coming back together, the local economy, a lot of people will turn to setting up market stalls. This has always happened in history. So it looks like we should be closing it down as completely uneconomic. It is not very suitable, but we should have a market in future as part of trying to get Bletchley to bounce back. And that's the overall comment. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions on Delia's report?
Chair, I've still got Delia's thing on front of me, so I can't actually see. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can we at least vote? There we go. Can you see it on that one?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah. I'd like to come in if I can, please, Chair.
Of course you can.
Yeah, because all towns, you know, need a market, and the Bletchley market, as everybody knows, it's gone downhill. But they are fighting against the cheaper shops, and obviously some of the market traders can't buy their stuff for what Lidl's or Home Bargains or the pound shop sells them for. You know, we all understand that. But what we should be doing is, with the traders we got, that they've been loyal to us, you know, over the years, and obviously we've just coming up through the holiday season. Some may take an holiday, some may not, I don't know. But I feel that we should be looking at what we can do to help them, who we got and to keep, and who we can bring in the future. Because there'll be other market traders in other markets who are probably not happy with where they are, because the footfall has probably dropped in other markets all over the country, you know, and market traders, that's what they do, that they do move about. So we've got to make our market look a bit more interesting for them to come to us, or for us to go to them and say, well, if you're not happy, you know, we've got a job for you. You know, so I think, you know, we should sort of put our heads together to do something to make our market traders really happy and not sort of unhappy or sort of a bit iffy at times. But I think we should put our heads together to do something to keep them happy and bring new people in. As Delia, as a clerk said, you know, there are people that are interested, but a burger van won't make a penny because there's too many eating places in Bletchley. But other kind of stuff will probably make a fortune. You know, I know the flower man who comes on a Saturday, he makes a killing because he's got no competition. And the garden centres, and his quality of stuff is as good, if not better, as a garden centres. You know, so this is the sort of thing we should be looking at, bringing in traders that we haven't got here and what we need and what we haven't got in the shops, and some of the shops that are be opening, the new shops. You know, we got a few new shops opening, but they wouldn't interfere with any market traders. That's my opinion, anyway.
It's a good opinion.
Are there any other comments on before we look at the motion that's on the agenda? Gary, if you've already spoken, but I'll let you go quickly.
Basically, supporting Councillor Haynes' point that once we've got this bridge built after December 7th, that's when it's supposed to be finished. We should incentivise, even drop the rates in order to actually try and make a sort of bumper Christmas restart and attract the new people in, exactly as Councillor Haynes been saying. We make it clear that Bletchley is open for business. That's the point.
So thank you for your comments, Councillor Kenworthy and Councillor Hay. Prior to this meeting, I submitted a motion which is on the agenda. Seeks to, I hope that you've all had a chance to read it, but it seeks to enable a promotional period for 75% of the rate for the stalls. And it also, one of the other key points of it is it asks the council to consider the establishment of specialist markets in 2021. So do I have a seconder for that motion?
I second that, Councillor Chair.
Fantastic. Are there any comments on the motion itself?
Chairman, if none of the councillors wish to speak, I'd like to make a comment, if I may.
You may.
I think it's excellent that we're able to offer the market traders a discount, which I think will be helpful. I'm not sure if that in itself will be sufficient to attract some of the to encourage some of the existing traders who are wavering about whether to stay. I'm not sure whether that will be sufficient on its own to persuade them to stay, because I think for them the issue is less about the charges. Our charges are quite low compared with other markets anyway, but their concerns are about the location, which again is not something we can do very much about at the moment. But I think there needs to be a really, the council really needs to get behind some other activities to promote the market. I see that you have included those in the motion. I just think that we perhaps need to spend a bit of money on advertising. In addition to that, in addition to doing our own, maybe some budget needs to be used on advertising.
Do you have any recommendations of where that money could come from, or how much we should set aside as an officer? Well,
we're still members of the National Association of Market Traders. They do have a website and a newspaper which we could potentially advertise in, or we could consider local alternatives. I have to confess I haven't done a lot of research on this. I think in the past, we've perhaps spent up to £1,000 on advertising when we've had a particular promotion that we've been wanting to make for market traders.
Councillor Kelly Wilson.
I was just going to say, thank you, Chair. I was just going to maybe suggest that I know that temporarily we've had to relocate the market, and could we actually assist the stallholders by putting up signage in Stanier Square? Just, you know, as quite big signage which says temporary market and a big arrow, so that we can actually guide people to where they're going, because I think some people might just go to Stanier Square and say there's no market on today and then turn around. And you know, if we I know that some other towns have either got marshals that on the street, or you know, they've got very big signage that people are, you know, so I think that that's something that can help. Also really supportive of you know, perhaps some kind of campaign in local media, which, you know, Bletchley market is bouncing back, you know, something like that to try and get some extra trade into Bletchley.
Just coming onto the signage, if I can just say that we have obtained quotes for a banner to put on the bandstand to direct people down to the other end. Theoretically, we should have planning permission for that. I think we might see if there's a way that we can do it without needing planning permission. But yeah, I agree that the signage we've got at the moment is inadequate.
Okay, so we've got the motion in front of us. Just thinking about how we take this forward. Do we want to make an amendment, or well, first of all, we need to have a seconder for it. Do you want to make an amendment to that motion to include marketing?
I think you've got a seconder, Chairman, because I think Councillor Haynes seconded it.
He did. Thank you for that reminder. Ethan, do you want to amend it to include?
Yes. So can I amend the motion to put up appropriate signage redirecting to the temporary market, and also asking the clerk to investigate and recommend local marketing? I think this is actually twofold. I think we want to attract new traders, but we want to tell the you know, the local public and actually people across Milton Keynes that our market is still open and drawing trade into Bletchley.
Okay, I accept that amendment. Have you got that, Delia?
Yeah, I think so too. Amend the motion to put up appropriate signage to direct people towards the market, and to start a local marketing campaign, and to seek costs and ways of going ahead with that campaign. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other comments on the motion that's before us, or should we go to a vote? Gary?
Just the main thing that I'll be careful with some of the advertising until we know what's happening with South Saxton, the bus station, and Buckingham Road all being blocked off till December, because it's really impacting footfall, people getting around at the moment. And it's predicted on quite a few government models that December could be our worst month for COVID-19. So under those circumstances, I think it's very difficult to sort of predict what's going to be happening in December if we get an overrun on the bridge replacement, and what's happening around the bus station, because it's pretty dire around there for footfall, people moving around. So just please take that in mind about the expenditure on advertising. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So we'll take that to a vote. Sorry, Ethan.
Sorry, I take some of the points, but actually I see that conversely. I think that if we've got struggles with Buckingham Road being closed and issues being happening around that area of Bletchley, and in relation to the Network Rail works, which are going to be going on for quite some time, that actually we should be upping the expenditure to try and bring more people in, because we can actually use that advertising to say this is the way that you can get in during the works. This is, I would not be wanting to not advertise because of other issues which are affecting the market. Because, you know, if we wait for all of these issues to be resolved, there may be no market to save.
Councillor, I wasn't saying those particular words, like we don't do any expenditure. I was saying about a control on the expenditure and how much we do, dependent on the circumstances, not there will be none. Okay, thank you.
I think the motion said that it would, the costings would be looked at.
We would seek costing. I mean, if we can do quite a lot without, I think we do quite a lot without money, but we may need some money.
Should we take that forward, the motion forward for a vote with the amendments that have been suggested? All those in favour? I think that is unanimous. So moving on to item 12, which is to receive an update report on work undertaken to the fabric of George Street Community Centre. Clark, do you have anything that you would like to say to that?
I'm just wondering if it would be, are you happy for us to discuss that in public? I think we can. I mean, I think we can. I don't think there's any reason why we can't, as long as we're careful to keep on to the issue of the work done to the fabric of George Street and not anything else.
Yeah, my personal view is that we should do it in public, and I think we can on this one. But I do think as councillors, we just need to be wary that there are other issues at George Street, and we just need to stick to the report that is in front of us.
Yes. I mean, this is I'm just going to clarify. This is an update that sets the position. It's very unfortunate that the work has not been able to be completed within the original timescale, which was by the end of July, and that's obviously very difficult for our tenant, who was hoping to be able to use the building. But I do feel that Millstream, our contractors, have done the best they could do in the circumstances, given the demands of the social distancing and the pandemic, and some of the issues that have arisen during the course of the works. We've now got an estimated, and I very much hope it's the very latest date, completion date of the end of August, and I'm very hopeful it'll be before then. You see on the second page of the report that we have had to go into the contingency that was included in the budget for further items, for the extra work, for the rectification of the dealing with the exposed old heating pipe and replacing the flooring there. But the projected final account is very close to the projected final account. If you take the costs of the floor out, the projected final account is very close to what we anticipated. So I feel satisfied from that point of view. We will be writing formally to both the tenant and to the next door neighbour to apologise for, very, very sincerely, to apologise for the delays that have happened, and to express the hope that we'll get the tenant back in by the end of this month, and also to express our thanks to the next door neighbour for the cooperation that's been afforded to us in doing the external works.
Okay, Councillor Kelly Wilson, come in.
Okay, I think that we should be thanking the officer team for the work done on this so far. I'm aware of all of the issues that have come up with this building. I think, to be fair, the way that this building was handed over to the town council, no one was probably aware of some of all of these issues that have come up at that point. And it's only when we started doing the work that we found it. So I think that we should not be, you know, kicking ourselves too much. At least I feel that we've taken the right decisions to restore some of the history to the building as well, and that the end result is going to be that the people of Fenny Stratford are going to have a much better community centre when it's finished. And sometimes progress takes a little bit of time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kelly Wilson. Are there any other comments on this report? No. I think I would just like to echo Ethan's comments about the work of the officers. I think we do appreciate what you've done. It's not been an easy one, this George Street and the refurbishment and the works that have been needed there. So I just want to thank all of the officers for their hard work on that side behind the scenes. Can we note that report? Do we want to note that report?
Noted.
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 I'm going to propose that we just amend the agenda slightly, and due to the fact that items 13 and 14 may need to go into, we may need to exclude the press and the public. I'm proposing that we move item 15 and we have that now, because we can do that in public session. Are we all happy with that?
Yep.
Fantastic. So we move on to item 15, which is to review the Town Council's investment policy. Clark, did you want to make any comments or introduce that, give any background information?
Yes. Just to say that, I mean, I have provided the previous investment strategy, but I have actually more or less rewritten the investment strategy based on current guidance. It's not wildly dissimilar to the previous policy. I think it's just laid out a bit differently, and hopefully it's a bit clearer. And obviously it makes reference to the up-to-date legislation. And then at the bottom of the report, obviously there is the current investment schedule, which shows you the yield that we've had over the last 12 months. Unfortunately, I fear we will not do as well over the next 12 months, simply because of what's happening with investment rates. But you've seen the balance sheet, and you're aware of our position. This is really about approving the policy, and noting that the policy must be updated on an annual basis henceforth. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any comments on the policy, or can we go to approving it?
It needs to be recommended to full council because it's a policy matter, if that's possible, please.
That's okay. Thank you for that.
I'm happy to recommend full council.
I think Councillor Kelly Wilson has got some comments to make.
Just really, with regards to the investment strategy, I kind of see the point about considering ethical, social and environmental factors. Do we want to be clear on any, or make any recommendations of any investments that we don't want to invest in? And you know, should we be getting investment advice in order to make that decision? Because you know, I don't know whether we want to continue to invest in such low yield items, whether actually we might want to invest some of our reserves into property locally, which we can rent out, or whether we want to invest into some funds that might have higher growth, but you know, but whilst being clear on things that we won't invest in. And the reason that I talk about investment advice is I think that once we start, in my day job, I look after the defined benefit pension scheme, and once you get into the investment strategy for those items, it does need a specialist to actually advise you what you're spending, where they're actually spending it, etc., etc. So I just think, is there some more questioning that council would like to have before agreeing the policy?
Could I speak to that, please? The policy does include does mention the use of financial advisors, and I do think that is something that the council should consider, because it is a considerable sum that's held that's held at bank or in our investments at the moment, and I definitely think that's worth considering. Although the priority is security, and then liquidity and then yield, the CCLA also has a property fund, which, if the council is minded to consider a longer term investment for part of the funds, it is worth considering, and there may well be other vehicles on the market that could be considered. But again, I feel very strongly that it would be helpful to have some professional advice, because it's beyond my skill set to advise the council.
Councillor Kenworthy, you had your hand up.
Not well. I didn't really, just the way I was moving my hands. I am concerned about going into different asset classes. I mean, I spent a lot of my life in banking and investment management type of, and going into property could be quite risky. As simple as that. I know base rates are 0.1, but I would be very concerned if we have anything like the 1929-1931 recession of going into certain obvious asset classes, because a lot of them got heavily devalued, and we're projecting very similar to the worst recession since 1929. So I'll be very, very careful about choosing certain asset classes.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement that we do need to get some advice in terms of what we do with investments. I know I've discussed this with the clerk before this meeting, and my concern was we're losing money here effectively. Well, we're not losing money, but our money's not growing in the same rate as the inflation is. So we've actually got less money to spend. I think I've worked it that right. But so for me, my question is actually, is this the best use of taxpayers' money? And should we be diverting some of this into projects within the community, which is what we've raised the money for to spend in the community? On the other side of that, there is the longer term impacts. So actually, do we want to invest and then have more money in the future, have a return in the future? So I would welcome advice on investments so we can make an informed decision. So I will go to Councillor Kelly Wilson.
I think just to come back on some of the other points that have been made, I totally get that this is a really difficult time for people at the moment. My experience of the pension scheme is actually this is a really great time to invest, because as asset classes fall, then you buy them cheap, and actually you're able to make money on the return. And you know, there are some asset classes that are really low at the moment. The kind of advice that I'd be expecting to get is, you know, perhaps with their CCLA money, is do we kind of put a third which stays there? Is there a third of that money that we want to have, quick growth? Is there kind of a third of that money that and then we get somebody to come back with us with a plan and say, this is how we think this money could work for you in the short term? Because on that figure that is in the CCLA at the moment, I'm not saying the figure because I don't know if I can, but that's just sitting there at the moment. And I think on the number that I'm seeing there, we're not even going to make 5 figures on the interest that we're going to receive for that fund. And so I'm just really interested in how we can make some of this. We're not going to spend all of this money over the next year. So actually, can we actually make more money from it so that we can do more work at less precept in the future? And with regards to the investment advice, I don't have those skills either. I think it is really specialist. The staff team should not be kicking themselves over that either, because There are experts that do this.
Can I come in on this, Chair?
You may.
I've got a lot of experience of things like BCCI, Icelandic banks. You know, this is what I spent 30 years of my life in terms of like risk management and working in, you know, the central accounting of banks and investment companies. And there's a lot of advisors used to go out there and saying the best thing you can do is invest in subprime. The best thing you can do is invest in BCCI or these ice saves. And even after they went bust, people were still advertising 2-3 days later to put your money into Icelandic banks after they'd gone bust. So whatever you're doing and whoever you're going to, I'd like to be involved because this is very, very much my end of the world.
I'm sure if we were to have advice, it would come to this finance committee in the first instance, so we could have that discussion, which you are a member of. So and I don't think any decision would be made. Correct me if I'm wrong here, and without it would be a recommendation to full council.
Yes.
So
I think so.
definitely be involved in that, Councillor Kenworthy.
I think it would be a recommendation to full council. Just to note that the current statutory guidance that we have to have regard to was issued in 2018, and it was an update on guidance that was issued immediately after the Icelandic bank challenges. And if we did appoint any advisors, it would be part of their remit to comply fully with the statutory advice, obviously, which lays out very clearly what is and isn't acceptable. And I think it would allay your concerns if you had time to read that statutory guidance, Councillor Kenworthy. It's available on the website.
Ethan, did you have any more comments? Your
No.
hands up. No, that's fine. So what I would suggest is that we recommend this policy to full council with the advice that we seek professional advice on investments. Are we all in favour of that, or do I need a seconder first? We're all in favour. So that's unanimous. So we'll jump back to item number. We get the item number 13, which is on Newton Leys Pavilion, to note arrangements for further public use of Newton Leys Pavilion. Clark, do we need to go into exclude the press and the public?
Well, I think we could start. I think there's quite a lot we can say that should be in the public domain and is in the public domain. But I think we just need to remember that not to discuss individual accounts, if you like.
Okay.
And if we need to discuss an individual account, I think at that point we ought to go into private session. And I think there is one account I would like to discuss. So I would like to go into. I do think it could be. It is confidential information, and I do think that should be considered in a confidential session. But I think there's quite a lot we can discuss before we get to that point, if that's acceptable to the committee.
So once we've discussed the other items, then part of this, then should we, if you make
yes,
that to me, we'll go into that.
Yeah. So if I can just provide an update, I mean, you'll have seen from the accounts that we've had very little income, if any, from Newton Leys since the beginning of the financial year. We have been working towards reopening. At the moment, we've only got the preschool in there, and they went back as soon as the government advice was to send preschools back, and they've been in there. We have been working towards gradually reintroducing the different activities. Some of the groups are not ready that have been using the pavilion are not ready to come back. We've been advised that the church that used the building on Sundays is looking towards the 1st of September at the earliest. But we do know that we have 2 exercise classes who would like to come back as soon as possible. We're anticipating that the youth club will want to come back with effect from the 1st of September. the exercise, the 2 exercise classes would have liked to come back sooner, but I feel that we're not ready to have them until the 1st of September, and there are several reasons for that. One is that the Environment and Premises Manager has got annual leave in the last 2 weeks of August, and I just don't think we have the capacity to manage the situation, to reintroduce people at that time and manage the situation with all the other things that we've got going on. The guidance on the various different activities in mixed-use community halls is actually quite difficult to follow. I've spent an awful lot of time on the government website looking at apparently conflicting advice. We've been working on our risk assessments, but I do want them to be evaluated by our health and safety advisor, Ellis Whittam, and also to be run by our insurers before we actually open. So although our exercise class providers would have liked to come in sooner, my recommendation to council is that we don't open to those activities until the 1st of September, regrettably.
Do we have any comments on that? Go for it, Kelly, Wilson, Ethan.
I was just going to say, I think that as a Christian, I'd be really pleased to see the churches reopen, but I'm currently trying to organise a funeral, and we've been told that you can't sing in churches, and at the moment, which is awful. I think with some of the exercises, some of the stuff might be circuits with lots of people handling lots of equipment. So I just want to be assured that it's not just our staff team that are doing the risk assessments, that obviously we've got that the bookers are going to be assessing risk as well, because and I think it's important. I don't want to put barriers in the way of people coming back into the pavilion, but I think it's really important that we don't end up with another 6-month closure of the pavilion, and that's really only going to happen if everyone treats this really seriously. And so this could also be for other community centres as well. We need to make sure that our hirers are doing that piece of work.
I feel, I mean, we will be asking all our individual users to provide their own risk assessment, but obviously we're responsible for the overall risk assessment and for monitoring what goes on in the community centre. And I am very cautious about it. It would be entirely possible for an infection to be traced back to a community centre and for it to spread quite easily with cross-contamination from one group to another if we're not absolutely spot on. And as you say, I think it's absolutely essential that our health and safety advisors are entirely happy with our risk assessments and our planned procedures.
And that's important, the risk assessments. We need to make sure our health and safety advisors are happy. One of the things that exercise classes, I mean, gyms are running them now, so there's potentially that we should be looking to try and re-establish them, but we need to make sure we've got the right risk assessments. Also, some questions that come to mind is about cleaning arrangements. Actually, should we how do we deal with that? Because we will need to do increased cleaning. Who should it be, the hirer who takes the cost, or should it be us? Also, the record keeping of people who are using the building. Actually, should that be done by the individual hirers, or is there something that we need to manage centrally?
So I think our thinking as a management team was that there would be an onus on the hirers to do cleaning after they have finished, to do basic sanitising of door handles and equipment and things like that after their session. But obviously, we will need to increase the cleaning regime as well. And how feasible it is to pass on that cost, I'm not sure. So this is why I think it needs more work and why we're not ready yet.
Are there any other comments on this? Councillor Campbell.
Sorry.
If the town clerk says we're not ready, we're not ready.
Councillor Kenworthy. No, Councillor Kelly Wilson. Sorry about that.
We just say Ethan edit. That's probably easier.
It is easy to say. I'm just trying to do the council a bit, and then.
So I think that one of the points that I also say is there have been a couple of occasions when hirers have said they're doing one thing and they've turned out to do another, and that was the point that I perhaps forgot to get across in why I think it's important for them to be involved in the risk assessment. Is we need to ensure that our risk assessment includes all of the activities that they are doing and what they're really doing if they are doing something different, or if there's been a change in the products that they're offering since they started the hire. Because that, you know, with regards to the gyms, I've actually seen, you know, you're not allowed to step outside this square, and you know, we need to make sure that all of that is worked in to whatever risk assessment goes over to health and safety.
I think we will need to we will certainly need to cater for spot checks on the activities of the users. I mean, we've always had the capacity to do spot checks and make sure that the users are using in the building in the way that they've said they'd use, but that's going to be even more important going forward.
Are there any other comments on this? I want to make sure that we will have the opportunity to say something if we want to.
Just, yeah, Delia, just a thought that come up, and sorry to monopolise, but I know the building. You mentioned spot checks. We know that there's no cameras currently in the big hall or the small hall, and actually, in order to support these spot checks, is there, you know, should we be would it be a good investment to put something in there at the moment, so that actually we not only have to we don't have to force the staff team to go in during the evenings and the weekend. We could get them to review the video if they thought there were any concerns. And I think it might, you know, we might spend, you know, a couple of thousand on doing it, but I think, you know, it might be more helpful. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think it needs a bit of careful consideration. There's a couple of aspects of that. The current system is to capacity at the moment. We can't get any more cameras on the current system, so it would be less straightforward than just adding additional cameras. That it would be a bigger piece of work than that. I think we've got to be really careful about the way we use CCTV cameras. We've got to respect the the privacy of the people who are doing the exercise classes and so on, but at the same time we've got to balance that against the other issues, and I think it's something I'd like to spend quite a bit of time thinking about and taking advice on. But it's definitely worth considering as part of the way forward.
Okay, are we happy to know what the report that we've had so far?
Yeah, noted. Yeah.
Noted. Fantastic.
Can I just come in on a point? You cannot film people taking exercise, you know, in leotards and things of that nature. It's actually not allowed. You can't do it. Although I totally agree, it would be great to actually protect our assets, have extra security and video, because we've got a huge asset at Newton Leeds. And we can't allow anything to really go wrong with it at all. It's just that what you're filming, you cannot film young children, you cannot film people in like leotards and exercises, but you can have things with the security at night. The principle of what Ethan is saying is very valid, but it does need a considerable amount of thought attached to it.
I think we'd need to look
at the advice would be
advice. I think we need to seek advice. I mean, we've already got our CCTV policy, which is we've taken a lot of advice on it. It's very clear and it's fine for the uses that we've got at the moment. But I think we just would need to look carefully at if we decide to extend the camera coverage. We do need to look very carefully about what's going on in the places that we would want to extend the coverage to. So yes, that point taken completely.
So are we all happy to note the report so far?
Yes.
That's good. I therefore propose that we go into private session. So we stop the streaming onto Facebook because we will need to discuss, we will need to have a report on an individual issue. Are we all in? So I propose that we go into confidential session. Are we all in favour?
Cameron, can I just check if you want to extend that to item 14, which is about it's to review the use of the small meeting room and the counselling rooms at Newton Leys. Now, we've had an offer made to us by an individual who's interested in hiring those rooms. I don't know if you want to take that item.
Chairman, can I propose, as it would be discussing the value and it's commercially sensitive, and that it would not be appropriate to discuss that in an open session?
Okay. So I propose that we go into confidential session, or we propose to remove the press and the public as per the legislation for items 13 and for the remaining items on 13 and item 14. Are we all in favour? That's all of us.
Thank you. In that case, Chairman, when you're ready, I'll stop the live streaming.
I'm ready. Please, can we stop the live streaming?
Thank you.